right? Like I said, I've always been an agitator. I've always been, how can I make this thing better that I'm invested in? And so I always knew I wanted to do this. And it wasn't until I just kind of reached out on a whim on a DSA call that the resources were so abundant to us. People just came out of the woodwork and were like, no, you can, like, a normal person like you and your partner's like, you can do this. This is entirely within your power, and gave us everything we needed. That was April 11th was the day that we reached out. And it's, what's today? Not even the end of May.
Like
and
May
we have filed. It's been incredible. The resources were so abundant once we just reached out a little bit. It was incredible. And like I said, DSA was kind of the starting point. Our organizer that we're working with now is with Workers United, but DSA has been an incredible resource, and all it took was reaching out to them.
And just being observant of what was going on around you and being like, this is the moment that I can seize.
Yeah, it was. I would actually put it on the DSA organizer, who was more observant, because I kind of just joined this call on a whim that was for DSA, like chapter heads, like, what are you guys doing to help Starbucks? And I was like, let me see what this is about. I work at a Starbucks. And I just asked like a weird out of place question that someone realized, like, oh, this is not a person who's with DSA. This is a barista. They're in here looking for resources. Like, she knew immediately. And just immediately just gave us everything we needed. So I honestly, it was her vigilance kind of that got us there. I was just bumbling around like, please help.
Yeah, but you knew, like, you had that energy in you already.
I mean, joining the call was kind of the first step of like, okay, I'm going to see what's out there.
So what was it like when you brought this to your coworkers and you were like, hey, y'all, check this out?
Surprisingly, or not that surprisingly, maybe, several of my coworkers who later became OC members, that's organizing committee members, we disclosed to each other that, like, several of us actually wanted to do this, but we're all in the same process in our head, like, what do we do? Where do we go? How do you do this? And it was the morning of, so Howard Schultz put out a call where he was like, hey, all partners should, like, watch this hour-long anti-union talk. And can I say the S word?
Fuck yeah.
So we just talked shit about it for the entire shift. Starbucks did this work for us. We just talked shit about it the entire shift. We're like, oh my gosh, you're like, I'm making 100 coffees an hour. You want me to sit down and watch an hour-long video about how you don't want me to unionize? And that was the morning that several of us, or specifically me and one other coworker, Sierra, like, looked at each other and we were like, yo, like, if we do this, and she was like, I will do it if you will do it. And at that point, we had an OC, we had an organizing committee.
That was it.
It was incredible. We were actually crouched down by the coolers, like, putting milk in there. So we were, like, hidden. We were like, do you want to, like, should we? That's cool.
Were there points, like, were there different shifts where you felt like you could talk more openly and shifts where you felt like you had to hide stuff?
Absolutely. And it just came down to, we have something that Aisha shared with us is called an Airtable, and it's like a spreadsheet where you log, like, all of the partners on different shifts. Where do you think they stand? Maybe we haven't had the conversation yet, but how safe are they to talk to? Sometimes it came down to, like, I don't know at all where this person stands, but I know, like, we're close enough. I know they're not a narc. I can just ask them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were some shifts where we sat down and talked beforehand to be like, hey, let's not bring it up in front of person A, B, and C.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were on the same page.
Good. That's very good. Well, and I hope that we can all be on the same page for this, the 104th episode of the WTF. No.
What happened?
All right. I didn't change the number. It's the 105th episode of the WTF Carbondale podcast. Actually, you know what? We're gonna make a change real quick here because we can do this. We can do this quickly. We can make this happen. Ken LeBlanc, relatively new to Carbondale, but came into Carbondale with that Carbondale spirit. Boom. I'm gonna kick us back up here while I fix the banner. But thanks for being on the show, and thanks for, like, having an interest and being like, oh yeah, totally, like, this is my jam, let's talk about this.
Oh, I've fallen in love with this community, so I was totally stoked.
So how let's talk about your coming to Carbondale. Gosh, as I sit here and freak out going, can I change the banner quick enough? Like, what, I mean, you've already told me in our conversation what drew you to Carbondale, so I know, but for the audience out there, what brought you to Carbondale, of all places?
It's a love story. We love that. So my partner is getting his PhD in communication studies here at SIU. I was back in Baton Rouge selling cars. Quickly
Selling
realized-
cars?
Selling cars. I was trying different. I was trying my hand at different industries. Quickly realizing selling cars was not my jam.
Fair.
Ready to kind of put it down, turn a new leaf.
Was it because you have ethics?
It is. It is. Excellent. Yes,
That was the whole thing.
I was just so uncomfortable. I mean, the money's great. You don't even have to be good at selling cars. You sell a few cars and like there's money.
Right.
It just, it feels gross. It feels gross to tell an 18-year-old, like, yeah, you can totally make that car payment. I believe in you. No, you probably can't. It felt gross. So I was ready to put that down. My partner and I reconnected after about 6 years. And we had done the long distance thing before. And you know what's not fun? Long distance relationships. So I was turning a new leaf anyway. I said, that place seems cool. Let me just throw everything I own in the back of my Santa Fe and I'll be there in 9 hours. And it has been excellent.
That's
ever
phenomenal.
since.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I have fallen head over heels in love with this community, with this area. Just amazing.
Well, and you've been in different places, right, where you've got some perspective on like
Right.
that this isn't too bad of a little town to be living in.
I mean, I lived Baton Rouge. I lived in Florida. I did some traveling. I lived in Kansas for a while. Worked on farms up in the mountains of Tennessee. So Carbondale is my favorite place. The farmers market alone, stop. I love a good farmers market. This farmers market is poppin'.
Well, and how many farmers markets can you have in a week, right? I mean, I think we can have up to like 3, depending on what time of the season it
Yeah,
is.
sometimes
So-
we'll go out to Anna. They do one on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
the
everywhere.
microgreens are excellent. The hiking, I mean, just the fact that it's like past noon, I'm already doing stuff and I can still leave here and go, all right, let's go do a hike. Let's
Right.
go fish. That's amazing. That's incredible. All of that is so available and close by, and I love it.
It's so much. So one of the things that's real cool here is just how much the Civilian Conservation Corps has had an influence on Southern Illinois and Giant City and our national forests, and just like that this whole area, right, is big into the concept of public good.
Yes.
Right, that whether or not people can acknowledge it, the reality is our whole region is formed in the vision of public good. Carbondale and our university, right, as a state institution, public good, right? It is oozing out of everything that exists here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're a self-made private person or if you're somebody who participates in the in the greater in the greater social experiment here. The reality is like everybody has benefited from just shared resources.
Right. I've never lived anywhere with a warming center. I found out there was a warming center.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like, that's really cool. Like and obviously, you can always do more. We can always have more resources, but it's a huge step. It's something that I haven't seen in a lot of other places, and I really do appreciate. And it says a lot that my partner was just living in Texas and decided to come here for his PhD. When I found out he was living in Illinois, I was like, what are you doing in Illinois? Like, for what? But I mean, I don't know a ton about the school, but it must be good.
Right.
Y'all
Well,
are rocking.
Yeah, well, and as we were talking again beforehand, that being in the comm school, that I get it because I got to go through it and know a lot of folks that are still there, and like we really are kind of just one of the several hidden educational gems of SIU, that and aviation and automotive and several other components of SIU that are just top notch in the field that you can just easily brush over because not a lot of folks know about little old SIU and little old Southern Illinois.
Yeah, when I found out about the aviation program, I was like, you guys are flying planes into here? I'm like, what? Okay. It's cool.
Well, and the snapshot of America that I was kind of talking about prior to as well, that this is a microcosm of many things representative of a national picture here, right? And it's things that you'll continue to pick up over time as you get more ingrained in the community. But everything from an international population that represents the best of what America offers to immigrants, to just the working class efforts of everyday life here, which gets us right back into union organizing. So you're connecting locally with folks now. Like, what is the reception been like from folks since this news broke that, oh my gosh, our Starbucks is unionizing, and like now Carbondale gets to be in the mix of this national picture for, you know, the modern day labor movement.
One guy on Facebook was like, why do you want to organize a Starbucks? But then other than that, everyone has been excellent. It was just that one guy who was like, nah, Starbucks is good. And it is. I'm not arguing that. But everyone has been, I think it's because we're kind of in a very blue bubble. Everyone's been very supportive. YDSA, again, has been like our biggest resource. Adam Turrell at the Born Again Labor Museum has let us just kind of freely use that space as a safe, out-of-work meeting space. Happens to be right next to the Starbucks, and that's incredible. Yeah. Very, very cool. I'm like, we can just like come here, like just sit in here all day. And he's like, yeah. It's amazing. They've been awesome. So we're putting up a flyer like maybe today or tomorrow to let our customers know at the Starbucks who come in, like, hey, we're organizing, like here's what you can do to help. And so we haven't really gotten the response yet. We don't really know what that's going to look like, but I expect it's going to look very good. We are really close with our customers. They love us. They really support us. So I think it's going to be excellent.
It is, and it's so new. I mean, shucks, that Starbucks can't be more than a year and a half
May
old.
May 3rd made a year. Yeah.
Wow. So it really has been just barely a year.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same Starbucks that's peppered all over every city in the United States. So, I mean, everyone's got the same exact issues, the same grievances, the same employees. We're all doing the same job. So we're in the same boat. It didn't take a lot.
What are some of the stresses of the job that like really need addressed? I mean, what are you guys experiencing on the ground right now that you're hoping that unionizing will be able to help address?
Right. So our biggest issue, I guess, on a broad scale is corporate entities kind of micromanaging a job that they don't do. That's they'll come in and say, oh, don't put the sticker there, put it there. And I'm like, you're here once a month and this is not your job. This is my job. Like, I do this job. Yeah. And everyone feels that way. And one of the main, where it hits the hardest, is scheduling. They schedule as few people as physically possible on the floor, to the point if one person has an emergency and one person calls out, we are almost inoperable. We just can't run. Yeah. And then all of our poor customers are just being told, like, oh man, COVID just hit everyone like really hard. So like, it's just so hard. Labor shortage.
Always a basic excuse.
When it just isn't true. It isn't true. There's more than enough labor available to them. All of us want more hours. Every partner that I've spoken to in my store, I've said, hey, like, what would you change? And they're like, I've told our manager 5 or 6 times, I need more hours. I need more hours. And our manager himself has tried to schedule us more hours. Like, he's actually a good guy, and he has tried. And he'll get a call from corporate going, hey, you got to roll that back. We can't afford it.
Yeah, you can't afford. We see the lines on that Starbucks. Can't afford it.
We would never financially recover. Are you serious? We have to have 7 people working in the Starbucks. We would never recover, ever.
What is like a busy moment in that restaurant look like? I mean, it's because any and everybody can see driving down 13 just how clearly swamped that Starbucks can get at any point in time.
Yeah. So there's something called peak. It's like the busiest 4 half hours of the day, and that's the only time of the day when we have someone stationed at every position on the floor. And then as soon as peak is over, they send like 2 or 3 of those people home just to, cut that labor. So at that point, half of the staff are doing like 2 jobs at a time. So if you go to the Starbucks during like one of those really long line times, you'll pull up to the window and you'll see the partner like, hey, like, cool, give me your money. Great. Okay, bye. Because that partner's going to take a sandwich out of the oven now because he's doing a job that someone else should be doing, but no one is there for, or he's going to help make a drink or something. And it feels, it's just really stressful for your one body to be expected to do the job of 2 and 3 and to feel like you're not good enough if you can't do more than one job at a time. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's perfectly adequate if I can do one whole job and do it well. I think that's fine.
Well, and that's the misnomer of, the modern working environment in America is that as soon as something is required of you, whether it's artificial or whether it's real, right, that you should just be able to snap to it, right? That if your surrounding labor force is limited, that you should just automatically be capable of doing 2-person's jobs or 3-person's jobs. And that's bullshit.
One thing that we're looking into that Buffalo is trying to put in their contract and kind of figure out how to work out logistically is if someone calls into work, instead of just bonus labor money for Starbucks, those wages actually get divided amongst the crew that is now doing extra labor. Yeah. So it's not something we have, but it's something that we're looking into that would make a lot of sense.
What is it, and I'm sure just working in the service industry that people get the BS pushback of, oh, well, it's minimum wage for minimum skill type BS because they've never worked in a restaurant or they don't understand exactly the type of skill that goes into being able to process hundreds of orders that are complex and customized in a given time frame. Like, what?
Right.
How does that push on you?
Yeah, so I have 2 thoughts about that, kind of. So I think when fast food first came about, right, in the olden days, and ding, 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 and it wasn't quite part of like most people's daily lives that you're going to go get something to eat through a window.
Mm-hmm.
The workload was a lot less, and maybe it was minimum skill at that point. You're not doing that much. But now there are so many more people who are utilizing these fast food places. The workload is so much heavier than I think it was ever intended to be. And I'm not interested in like arguing whether the labor I do is low skill or whatever. But at the end of the day, right, I use my body to create a product that my company sells for money. I do labor.
Yeah.
Right? I get out of bed and I come contribute to society every day. And if you want to argue that all I deserve is the bare minimum, that's fine. But the issue is that we're not even getting that yet.
Yeah.
That's the issue. So in Carbondale, baristas are being hired on at $12.50 an hour. It's a quick Google search to find that MIT places the living wage for this area at above 14. So not even bare minimum yet. If you think that's what I deserve, fine, but I'm not even getting it.
And we're going to address it.
I think at the end of the day, like I said, like if we're contributing to society, at the very least, we deserve the means to support ourselves as adults. I don't want a boat and a 2-story house, but like a regular house, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
A car, that'd be
works,
cool.
yeah.
Groceries, just the bare minimum. That's all. That's all I want. I just want my mom to stop having to pay my phone bill. That's all.
God bless Mom.
I'm 25. I want to do it myself. Thank you, Jill. And Joe, love you.
You have a good relationship with your parents?
My parents are excellent. Yes, they're incredible. So they live back in Baton Rouge, or a suburb called Denham Springs. Yeah, we're very close. I got into selling cars because of my father. My father sells cars. Crushes it. So good at it. And I was like, I can do this. Like, I'm just like my dad. I can do this. I didn't like it so much.
You're like, Dad, thank you for having this.
But my dad's like, I got 7 kids. Like, I'll tell these people they can make this car payment. Oh,
7
yeah.
kids. Okay. Now,
Got to.
Where do you fall in the mix?
Dead smack in the middle.
There's
in the 3
middle.
Younger, 3 older. Yeah, it's excellent.
Now we know where the agitator comes from, because you gotta go. You gotta.
That's right.
You gotta poke both ways.
Yep. My parents had 5 and then like waited another 10 years and then had 2 more. So like I do have younger siblings who are like 10 years younger than me. And we have excellent relationship too. They're incredible. I love them so much.
Does having good family relationships like help you to be able to go out to different places and have lived wherever you've wanted to or been at the time and felt like I always have a support system that I can call back to at home?
Absolutely. I've always had a safety net. I'm very privileged for that. That's never been lost on me. They've done way more for me than they ever should have. Honestly, they should have told me to stay the fuck home and just get a job, but they were like, you want to go work on a farm on a mountain? Okay, like we'll drive you, whatever. Never should have allowed it, Jill.
Come on, what are we doing here?
And my father's from Brooklyn, so he does sound like that.
Oh my gosh, how do you make it from Brooklyn to Baton Rouge?
Florida. as they would say. So I said I lived in Florida when I was a kid. My mom like hauled me and my brother to Florida. We met my dad, and we hauled them all back to Louisiana. Poor folks. I'm so sorry that happened. But now he's in this like place where no one hears people talk like that. So like they're very intimidated all throughout high school. Like I had to tell people, no, my dad sells cars. He is not in the mafia. He has never killed anyone. I'm sorry, he sounds like
they're
that.
just not used to hearing somebody who sounds like they're from.
I think that's why he sells so many cars too. I think he just like talks in circles, and they're like, all right, I'll sign.
Well, and it's you know when you're engaging with the unfamiliar, like especially vocal, like it doesn't matter. The personalities could be the exact same, but if the voice is different, you know, Brooklyn, you know, an English accent, an Australian accent, just, you know, go on down the line in the rabbit hole that you know, a different accent throws people off and may just bring them in closer and make them more malleable to what you ask them to do.
Especially down in Yee land, where like they've never heard.
And what's the
Yee ding 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 ding.
Oh yeah.
Land. They've just never heard anyone sound like that. Like a lot of them have never. I mean, I guess more so now, but a lot of like the older folks have just never like met anyone from that far north. So even my grandmother at first was like having a really hard time understanding my father when he came into the picture and was like, what did he say?
Well, it's interesting to me because like your accent in this conversation here is very much like that. I
get that a lot.
You sound like you belong here. is what I'm saying. Like that we don't. The southern, you can have the more country accent, but there's also a lot of that. You know, Iowan Midwestern no accent type of accent.
I love the Midwestern accent. I love it. I work with several partners who have that accent, and it's just so sweet and cute, and I just love it. Love it.
Don't ya know type.
Don't ya know. So cute.
So you talked about working on a farm. Now, was farm Tennessee, Kansas? Where was the
Tennessee, Kentucky?
Kentucky.
Just kind of around the border.
So have you always
Jellicoe?
been like interested in the outdoorsy type work stuff? So it was like
always, yeah. And animals, horses. I wanted to be where horses were. Now I'm scared of them because one threw me off, and I got hurt. But they're great. Yeah, I've just always really been into that, which is another reason that Carbondale. I've just loved Carbondale so much. Like I can just go hiking. I can just go somewhere and like walk through the woods, and like I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
I'm from a place where like things like that weren't available to the public. I did hike a lot back home, but I drove an hour to do it. Here I can just get off of work and like, where do you want to go? Like we can go hike, we can go fish. Like the public can just walk into these beautiful spaces and like we're welcome here, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
When I first got here, I was taking photos of everything. I was taking photos of every body of water we were fishing because it was like vacation level views. They were beautiful, and now I'm just like, it's Tuesday.
Yeah. it's amazing how you just kind of become numb to it so quick because it's just part of your life.
Yeah. I looked up yesterday, we were fishing, and I just looked out and I was like, I can't believe I've like already taken this for granted. It's gorgeous. I'm already over it.
But you're settling in. It's a good thing and a bad thing all at the same time. You're good. we may have you hooked for the long term. I don't know. We'll find out.
I don't know. I really like Chicago. I don't know.
Have you guys talked about going to Chicago and like spend some time in the city once?
So we did Valentine's weekend this year in Chicago, and we both really fell in love with it. We're kind of trying to decide where to go. Once my partner does get his PhD, he can kind of work pretty much anywhere. He'll just be like filling out job applications, and it's going to be a decision that we make together where we want to settle. I don't know that it's going to be Carbondale. But
that's okay. When you have a PhD,
we love
you
guys.
gotta get up and go.
I will always love you guys. I'm just not sure I'm staying that long.
Well, and that's the beauty of this place too, is the transient part of it, right? People come in here and they leave a little bit of themselves with this place, and then they take a little bit of themselves, or they take a little bit of this place with themselves when they leave, right? And that's the balance of like an ever evolving micro society like we have here, is that because there's not stagnation in the bodies that are here, that there's not a whole lot of stagnation in the life that's lived here.
That's what's so intriguing about college towns. People come here from everywhere. Like everywhere. Yeah. It's incredible.
And then you've got, there are there are lots of colleges that have lots of similar experiences, right? But we like to think that our squirrels are special here at Carbondale.
I love that. That's so endearing.
I was actually just talking to somebody at a small gathering a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about how Carbondale has a population of red squirrels because of somebody 80 years ago that kept red squirrels in their backyard, and a tree crashed through the cage and the red squirrels got out, and now we have red squirrels in addition to our gray squirrels. And
Do what?
yeah,
What?
like there was somebody that lived in the Arbor District that had red squirrels that they kept. Like,
what is a red squirrel?
I couldn't even tell you.
Have you seen one? I don't know that I've seen one.
I feel like I have to Google it to better understand it. I'm just retelling. Yeah, Google it in the podcast. We're good. But that there are squirrels that are different than just your regular old, gray squirrels that we see around here most often.
You're not gonna believe this. They look like squirrels, but like just a little red.
Yeah,
a little redder.
Yeah.
I think their ears are a little pointier too, and they're little. That's cute. I don't know that I've seen one of those guys, but that's
now
cute.
You're gonna be on the lookout for it.
I really will. I'll be like, hey, I know how those guys got here.
That's too fun. So are there other like just community activities that you've been involved in places that you've lived before that you find most endearing to kind of be involved in?
In places that I've lived before?
Yeah.
No. So Tennessee, it was like kind of out in the wilderness, so there wasn't like a city or anything. And then Baton Rouge is very, corporate. Like you can work there, but there's just not a ton of like active community groups and stuff. And that's another thing that I really adore about Carbondale. Rainbow Cafe is something that me and my partner both participate in. We both volunteer for Rainbow Cafe here. And it was incredible to find out that there was something like that here. There's nothing like that back home. Like, I'm
crazy
gay, and there's somewhere I can just go like be gay as a youth and like learn that like how to. It's incredible. Like, what an awesome resource! I was elated to find out. I could not sign up quick enough. So Rainbow Cafe, we do that a lot. As far as like groups, not so much. I've been kind of doing stuff with DSA, not affiliated with DSA. They just do cool work. Like I said, I'm going to kind of meet up with them later. They're gonna kind of strategize some community support for the clinic coming up, so I want to see what that looks like. Project Human X has been cool. We go paint sometimes.
Nice. That's
nice. Nothing like that back home. Just very like artsy, like politically active, just like community. It's incredible.
Well, and I think of, I have no point of reference for Baton Rouge outside of like an awful boss of mine used to work in Louisiana and like referenced Shreveport and Baton Rouge. And I don't even know how close those places are to one another. They just talked about
like 4 hours. I think they're pretty. So they're pretty far away.
Different markets.
I don't know what goes on in Shreveport. I know the name, and they said it in Princess and the Frog, but I don't know what goes on out there.
Well, and everybody knows Baton Rouge because of Garth Brooks, right? Hello, that's no.
Really. I don't.
Call him Baton Rouge.
I'm
no?
sorry. No,
oh, that's
I'm sorry. I don't
it's
listen to country.
It's all right. No worries.
My partner would know.
But like Baton Rouge is like a bigger metropolitan area. Like how many give or take?
Oh,
Google.
Thank
Google
you.
Again.
I'm really bad at numbers, and I couldn't tell you like how big a city is based on its. I don't.
But just the thought that like even in a more metropolitan area like Baton Rouge, that resources that you would think would exist in a more metropolitan area don't exist in an accessible way, like they somehow just exist here in little Carbondale.
I think it comes with 222,000.
Okay, so it's not like massive.
2020, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like
right.
multi-million.
Right. I think it kind of comes with like Carbondale being smaller, that these organizations and resources kind of stick out more.
Yeah.
With Baton Rouge, it's so big. There's so many people, and there's just so much going on that you've really got to dig to kind of find these things that are going on. So I can't say that there isn't a single LGBTQ advocacy group in Baton Rouge. There probably is, but not one that I'm driving down the streets and I see like a pride flag and a sign over here, and it's on Facebook, and there's just not that prevalent.
Yeah, inaccessibility.
Right.
And that is one of the things that makes it kind of work here, is that it's big enough that all of this activity exists, but it's small enough that all of this activity exists and then is engaged with,
Right.
throughout the community. That like you can't be away from it even if you wanted to be, because we're just small enough that everybody's some activity is everybody's activity.
Right.
And that's just the reality of it.
Right.
Which is what makes all of this union organizing so interesting, because this is, I feel like this is going to be something, because there's been talk of how do you work together on some kind of collective restaurant workers organization for years and years now. Like, what does that look like, right? And it's difficult because we're talking about a bunch of restaurants that are locally owned by folks that are in many cases struggling just as much as the folks that they're employing, right? So like,
Right.
how does everybody work together to fix a labor and a service environment that is broken, not necessarily because of any one individual person's efforts, but because these larger corporate entities have had such an influence with downward pressure on the labor market that everybody gets to suffer no matter where they're at.
Yeah.
Because of it.
I can tell you what I don't have, and that's a business degree. So I do feel for small businesses. I don't really know what's going on there. What I do know is that corporations like Starbucks have more than enough resources
Yeah.
to provide what we're asking for. It has for the longest been seen as like a unorganizable industry, kind of the restaurant and food service industry. And we're still in the baby steps of it, but I think Buffalo is crushing it, and we're all just following their lead. Workers United giving them all those resources. We're just kind of watching what they're working out, and we're following their footsteps. We also have groups now like Restaurant Organizing Projects. Hey, Jen, shout out Jen Lenz, doing excellent work, figuring out like how do we organize this kind of like wishy-washy industry, because it's not that they don't deserve it, it's just that they're not set up the same.
Yeah.
But we do need to exercise the right to organize in these industries as well. And when it comes to Starbucks specifically, we know that they have the resources. We know that it's there because fiscal calls are public. They actually asked baristas to attend the last one that they had, the Q2, the quarter two fiscal call.
Bold move.
Oh, well,
Starbucks.
they knew what they were doing. So they put it on our weekly update, and they were like, hey, you guys should like attend the fiscal call just because. And about 10 minutes in, Howard Schultz said, yo, like, we really want to give out raises. We can't wait to give out raises. But just a heads up, we can't give out raises if you're organizing. So anyway, and just went on with the fiscal call, taking calls from like investors. And it was just a regular fiscal call. But they just wanted us to hear that from Howard Schultz. And I was like, all right, cool. Thanks, bud. So when it comes to a fiscal call, oh my gosh, like we have so much money. We record-breaking profits. We have more money than we know what to do with, guys. Oh my gosh, we're Starbucks. We're loaded. And then when it comes to like, oh, did you want to like maybe distribute some of that and give like some more decent, respectable wages to people? Like, our pockets are empty all of a sudden. We would never financially recover. Where's the money gonna come from? But we know it's there.
It's just, and you wonder like what could the quality of everything be like for everybody involved, right? The consumer, the worker, the investors, everybody, right? If there was just not this wall put up to better wages, better working environments, and so on.
More profit sharing, less cutting corners, less labor cuts. I mean, we have customers who like have to just kind of leave their drinks behind sometimes, and it actually something went viral in St. Louis. Like there were like 40 or 50 food and drink items left behind because the wait times were just so long. People just said fuck it, and they just went to work.
So like people would pull in, like have their order placed. We're talking about
mobile orders.
Mobile orders. Okay.
They put in a mobile order. They come to pick it up. We're way behind on mobiles. It's not going to come out for another 20 minutes, but you got to go to work, so you leave. And it's the kind of thing that can easily be solved if you just give us the one or two people that we told you that we need on this floor. because we do this job. This is our job.
Yeah.
We're telling you that what we see with our eyeballs and what we experience is that we need 1 or 2 more partners on this floor. But what they'll tell us is, oh, so actually I saw that we sell X amount of drinks that day. And then my computer said that in order to sell X amount of drinks, you only need X amount of people. And that's kind of what we're fighting against, is this micromanaging a job that you don't do based on these computer metrics that mean nothing because they're not in here experiencing this job.
Well, and it's every work environment, right? It doesn't matter how you standardize in operation, right? McDonald's is a good example because they are like, every McDonald's is, the setup is the same. It doesn't matter. The environment in which you operate is going to be different. It doesn't matter if it's 2 miles down the road, that if you're offset on, one side of traffic versus another, it's going to be a different experience to some extent, let alone, a community Starbucks store in Carbondale versus a Starbucks in, the St. Louis suburbs, or, in a busy, walkable street in some other city. It's like, give, and it's not like you're saying, hey, just completely relinquish every bit of control to local folks and have no input in it. You're just like, hey, maybe listen to us some more. Maybe understand that we know what we're talking about because we are doing this work.
Yeah, that's something that one of our partners, Kellen, has really good input on, and he will be the first to tell you that, like, the metrics are not evil. They're not just do away with everything, but you do need to take into account that all of these different stores and locations are different. One thing he said is, like, our store sells more refreshers than he has ever seen at any store. Maybe we need, like, a bigger refresher station. Maybe we need, like, 2 people over there. I don't know, but, like, it's different. You can't just make every store exactly the same. And like you said, we are a community store. So it's going to be different than like a drive-through in the middle of the city. And we just want those resources allocated differently based on how we need them, based on the input from the people who are experiencing that store day to day. We can tell you better than anyone else what we need, what the community needs, what the customers at this location need. And we aren't St. Louis. We aren't all these other, we can't be exactly the same store. But if you would listen to each of the partners on the floor, they could tell you exactly how to improve each of these stores, and they're just not doing it.
Well, and it's like, it'd be one thing if it was, just another store that everybody else saw it as just another job and so on and so forth. But it's like when you clearly have people taking enough pride in their job to not just say, screw this, I'm going to quit and go get another job, right? But that are like, I like this work so much, and I like my customers so much, and I like what I'm providing so much that I actually want to stick my neck out there and fight for this work. Like, that's a sense of ownership that, could be engaged with and not just like discarded off to the side.
Right. Like we were talking about before. And that's one of, like, I've had a handful of jobs that I couldn't care less about. Like why would I try to change anything?
Like, I've sold cars before.
Yeah, no shit. And so you hear a lot of like, oh, if you hate Starbucks, leave. Why do you hate Starbucks? We love Starbucks. In fact, like, based on like what we see, we are Starbucks. Like, we are Starbucks. We're the people in the green aprons that make your macchiato. Like, we're Starbucks. And we love it. We love serving everyone in our community. We love like making, I think a lot of us are foodies, so we love like playing around with all these different flavors, and we can tell you like, hey, if you add brown sugar to the matcha, it tastes like a taro milk tea. And like, we love what we do. We love the physical labor. We love connecting with everyone in the community. And if we didn't, we would just leave. But I think because we love what we do so much, we feel an obligation to try to enact positive change in any way that we can. And again, not just for ourselves, but like, we genuinely feel like we can make positive change for the company, like not just money, but like this, a lot of quality in the company suffers when you cut these corners and you make these labor cuts. And I think the experience would be significantly better for customers as well if they would listen to the partners on the floor and let us tell them how we can make it better. Well,
because I think we know better
than anyone.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry.
But, thinking about things like, Starbucks wanting to do away with disposable cups in whatever their timeline is for that, and get people to bring reusable cups and work to cut down on waste. There you go, boom. Right? And it's like you don't get that buy-in just from top down, and you say, well, this is going to happen, and all of a sudden consumer trends just change because you say they should. Like, it takes the effort of every person working at your level, eye level with the consumer, to help make that happen, to give the service that makes people think, oh yes, I can come in with a cup and we can make this exchange and have this transaction around the beverage as opposed to the receptacle of the beverage. And it's like, you can't achieve that from a cold corporate office somewhere. That has to be achieved at the individual working level, and that relationship between, as you put it, partners, because that's what you're referred
Right.
to as.
Yeah, so the employees are called partners. I think because we get like stock. After a year, we get something called bean stock, and it's just like small shares of
Yeah.
stock. So we're like shareholders. We're partners, which is what we want to be, right?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we want to be, but we want them to kind of put their money where their mouth is. And
Yeah.
if we're partners, right, let us enact positive change in this company.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cups. Great idea. We've had several customers start bringing reusable cups. Thank you, Liz, because of interactions with partners, and probably Sierra specifically is like the cup person. She's like, oh, you didn't bring your cup today? That's weird. Oh, you want a straw? Oh, okay, not saving any turtles today. All right, cool, cool. She will for sure shame people into bringing reusable cups.
Soft guilt trips.
Yeah, and that kind of changes enacted from partner to customer, and not to. I mean, to give credit where it's due, Starbucks did start doing, they made their reusable cups, some of them, like the bottom line reusable cups, a lot cheaper around Earth Day. And then starting Earth Day, you could get like 25 stars when you use your reusable cup. So they are doing good. But it's a team effort.
I mean, it's thinking that incentives work better than relationships, and that's simply wrong, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you give away to folks to try and change their behavior. Behaviors are changed through relationships, not just through carrot and stick type of activity.
Right, because a lot of folks are like, I don't care about stars. Like, I don't need to get a free drink once a month or whatever. Like, I can afford my drink. I don't feel like washing out a cup every day.
Yeah.
So those stars mean nothing to them. But if they build a relationship with someone like Sierra and then feel like they're letting Sierra down,
That's right.
then Liz might bring a cup.
That's phenomenal. I feel like that should be your organizing shirts. Don't let Sierra down.
Don't let Sierra down.
That's a new call to arms if I've ever heard one. That's too funny. The community aspect of a community store too is interesting to me, because you've got the meeting spaces. You do. I've myself, and I very, very seldom get Starbucks, if not for my daughter saying I would like Starbucks, and something has happened to where I owe Starbucks. So, but like, I'll still just roll in and be like, hey, can I get some coffee grounds? Like every 6 months or so, because I've got a plant dying in my yard that desperately needs it. And it's like, yeah, just go over there and grab it. Like, do you have folks that utilize all the different resources of the store outside of the buying coffee aspects of it?
Yeah,
really
we're
drive
doing
that
coffee
community?
grounds again since the weather is good, and it's always really exciting when people come. So please come get free coffee grounds.
Very
We're
good.
making bags every day. Also, one thing that Starbucks does, or our location, I think it's because we're a community store, but something we do is we have people. I don't know what organization they're with. I never did get clear on that, but people come pick up our donation food every Monday and Friday. So food that's about to be out of date and we can't sell anymore, but it's still safe to eat. They'll come pick up bags of that, and I assume go serve them to someone. Good for them.
who's in need of it. That's phenomenal. I didn't
love
realize.
that.
Well, I may depending. So are those folks still actively and regularly?
Every Monday
Very
and
good.
Friday they're in.
Cool. I won't try and scoop them for my own for my own service activity. Then you've already got somebody that's working there. But no, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, and I've worked with a handful of folks at different times who are like, let's go meet up at the Starbucks and sit up front and just use the space, whether we're all drinking coffee or not. And
Right.
it does provide some of that footprint that it was hoping to provide as part of its own marketing presence, right?
Right. That's what I love about a community store. I've seen you see stories online of like Starbucks managers removing like unhoused people, displaced people from hanging out in the cafe if they're not buying something. And that's something we've never had an issue with. I think because we're a community store, like everyone is welcome to hang out. You don't have to. We have people who hang out just about every day. We'll give them a coffee. I might buy them a sandwich one day, whatever. But we actually can act as like a haven to people in the community, and I love that about our store. I don't think I would ever feel comfortable working somewhere where I was asked to like ask someone to leave.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that. Another thing that we're doing soon, we're volunteering at the speed dating for dogs. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, at the dog park. So I go to that dog park a lot. They had a grand opening recently, which was wild because I had been going there for months already. But they're doing the speed dating for dogs, and we're going out. We're going to be serving coffee on the 4th. I don't know what time.
Is it for coffee for people or coffee for dogs?
Oh,
some puppuccinos out there? No. Uh-oh.
That's a really good idea. We hadn't thought about it, but if we can find a way to keep whipped cream canisters cold, I would love to do that. I'm bringing that to my boss.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, if you need that connection, Jane Adams, who's the kind of spearheaded the dog park project, and that was actually one of the things I was referencing when I was talking about having met at the Starbucks and what have you. The couple meetings for the dog park that I went to, it was we met at the Starbucks. So
cool.
that was
Love that.
up. So we'll make that connection and see if they can provide a cooler and some ice.
Yeah,
and,
that's all we'd need.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, we're making progress.
We are.
Step by step. So you're a pet person?
Oh, big dog guy. Yeah. Yeah. I love all animals. Big animal person. Just more of a dog guy. Cats, I feel like their hair just gets everywhere. I don't know how it gets on my counter. But they're amazing. We've got 2 dogs, my partner and I. We've got a lab. His name's Porter, and a little street dog. I don't know, just a small dog.
Just a little yappy mutt.
Just a dog. Her name's Lyra. We go to the park all the time, so catch us at Friends of Carbondale Dog Park. Do you have dogs?
I am so. This is fun. This is fun. I am not a pet person at all.
Okay.
I have a number of oddball neuroses. One of those things being like things from outside, like being in my house, and pets are a phenomenal representation.
Are you a
of how
no
you
shoes
get,
in the house guy?
Huh?
Are you a no shoes in the house guy?
I'm like a don't sit on my side of the couch with clothes that you've worn outside of the house kind of guy.
Interesting,
Like
okay.
it gets like
Right.
really granular with my issues, and so pets are like an absolute no-go for me.
But like an indoor cat wouldn't leave your house, right? A hairless indoor cat.
And just
hairless?
general.
I would for sure have a hairless cat.
We have gone down this rabbit hole, my wife and I, time and time again.
Really?
It's not good. So here's where we have the compromise.
Okay.
Is
Tarantula.
That's good. It's still got hair
Observational
on it,
pets.
Is the house is covered in what we call catnacks. So probably over 100 plus figurines and images and whatever of cats strewn about the
cats.
house.
Cool.
Just everywhere.
Okay.
And that's
But no real cats.
Because
That's such an
I'm a
interesting
terrible
compromise.
husband.
I've never heard of that. That's wild.
I can't do it, and I have tried. Like I one time went and picked up my wife's cats from her parents' house, like brought them home, tried to do a surprise, like, hey, I'm trying to do this for you, I really am, and like I couldn't last 2 days.
Oh no.
Couldn't do it.
That's okay.
Couldn't do it. Oh,
That's
it's
okay. You're just my dad. My dad's like, I'm not a bad guy. I just don't need these dogs in my house. I don't hate dogs. You can have a dog.
I just don't like dogs.
I just don't like them in my house. But he even broke and got a dog, so I don't know. Maybe when you're like 50.
Well, the thought is when the kids move out, they're 11 going on 12 going on 35. That will free up some space, and maybe possibly we can do a pet room of some sort.
A pet room? A bird room? I had a bird.
I don't know if I get, the bird thing.
They're really cool.
If they didn't poop so much.
Yeah. Can't get around that. You can kind of potty train them. I did train mine to like fly to a perch and shit and then go fly somewhere else. The
Like,
perch was like built over a trash can, so there wasn't even any cleanup.
that's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's cool.
And birds seem to be like I don't know, the particular type of birds that we've domesticated at least seem to be the type of animals that do really well to engage and listen to human direction, which is
Yeah, they're
wild.
extremely involved. I think a lot of people make the mistake of getting a bird without realizing that birds need like as much, if not more, attention than a dog. I would greet my bird first when I came in from work before my dog, because my dog didn't care. My bird would freak out.
Well, they need human-like attention.
Extremely, yeah.
For animals that used to be raptors, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, right? Thank you. I say it all the time. No one believes me. Birds are really dinosaurs.
Yeah.
No, like genuinely, like
Yeah.
classified as dinosaurs,
Yep.
like scientifically. Don't get me started.
I know, but this is it. I do want to get you started because this is totally a thing. I was hanging out with my buddy Kyle just the other day, and he's got like, I don't know, 12 or so chickens, and they were just digging at a dirt spot underneath their coop, and I was just like, man, it is just scary that we have domesticated dinosaurs.
Yes, their lineage literally leads all the way back up to non-avian theropods or avian theropods. Like, it's incredible. It's amazing.
So
And they're
like,
just here, like.
are
so funny.
all animals of interest to you, or like specifically dinosaurs you're like super into?
So I'm interested in like natural history. That's not to say that I know a ton about it or could recall it on command, but I just think it's like really interesting the way that things evolve. I fell in love with birds when I got one on accident, and that's kind of what started it. I was like, wait, you're a dinosaur? Like how? And I had to figure that out. Sloths in particular, I'm like so into sloths. Sloths are very, very cool. The evolution of sloths is incredible. Sloths have like inhabited like so many different niches throughout time. They lived underwater. They've lived in caves. They're incredible, and they've been around for so long, like so long. And a lot of people think of sloths as like, oh, sloths are pitiful. Like they're just super slow. They can't do anything. They can't defend themselves. But that's like why they're still here, because they're so slow. It's camouflage. Like predators can't see them because they move too slow, and they're the same color as the trees that they live in. So like they can't. Sloths' teeth. Okay, I'm gonna go on for like a minute and then I'll stop on the sloths. Okay.
No, this is great. This is great.
Sloths' teeth never stop growing. They grow constantly because the food that they eat is tough and fibrous, and it's basically the shit that no one else wants, right? They evolved to eat the shit no one else wants so that they don't have any competition. So that's another reason they're still here. So they grind their teeth down on this like tough fibrous shit, so they have to keep growing teeth their whole life. Their fur grows like algae because they move so slow. They move so slow that algae grows on their fur. Camouflage, it's incredible. There's a species of moth that only exists in the fur of a sloth and feeds on that algae. I don't know what they're called scientifically, but they're a sloth moth. And they're only found on the sloth. That's wild. Like, that's incredible. It's very cool. They also die a lot when they're pooping. I don't know, because no one knows why. Sloths will like descend from trees to poop. And it's very weird because they can do everything else in the tree. So like they give birth in the tree, they sleep in the tree, like they live in these trees. So we're like, why are you coming down only to poop? You can just shit from the tree, right? But they won't. They come down, and when they're on the ground, they're very vulnerable. So a lot of them die that way. And we're like, why do you do that? Sorry. Okay, sorry.
No.
Very cool. They also used to be massive. The Megalonyx was huge. The Megalonyx got so big during the Ice Age, right, to like stay warm and shit. And once everything thawed off, they were too big and they like overheated and they died. It's very sad.
Where does this interest in these particular subsets of animals come from? Is there like anything that you can like pinpoint?
I don't even remember. PBS Eons is incredible. They do a great just kind of like mini-sodes about these subjects.
Were you a PBS kid growing up? No.
I'm a PBS adult.
That's right. Which is another wonderful thing about Carbondale in particular is so much public media. And it's there and it's accessible and yeah.
It's cool.
I'm a PBS adult. If that's not a sticker already, it needs to be.
Yeah, they do great. I learned so much from them. I think it's I I used to do another one of the industries that I dabbled in was healthcare. I did in-home senior care, and a lot of my jobs were just kind of like, okay, this person's taking a nap now, and I just need to like sit here while they take a nap. So I didn't have a lot to do, and I'd just go down like YouTube rabbit holes, and I was like, damn, natural history is cool. I would watch like TED Talks, so that's kind of where that came from. Just boredom. Accidentally found out that sloths are incredible.
And that's it. And that's a love of your life.
Yep.
Sloth life forever.
Sloth life.
I love it. That's the new bumper sticker we need more of. Less salt life, more sloth life.
What is salt life?
Okay, from what I understand, people go down to Gulf Shores and other beach areas. Like, I don't know, which part of Florida are you from? Florida?
Fort Lauderdale.
I don't even know where that is.
I don't either. I was like 8.
There you go. Right. So they'll go to these places, and they'll think that after a week that having sat on a beach is part of their identity, and then they'll throw that sticker on the back of their car.
It's an I went to the beach sticker.
Yeah, that's basically, as far as I can tell, it's the I went to the beach sticker. We
should make stickers that are like the same font, but they just say I went to the beach. Be cool.
That is such a hilarious like soft troll. Like so gentle and so like unassuming, but like so pointed at the same time. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
It's too funny.
Thank you.
Do you see in doing this work now, do you see a possible future that like you take what you learn from organizing here to wherever you go next, and you figure out, well, what's the next stage in growing in my capacity for antagonism and development, for folks that are being, aggressed upon by the modern capitalist structure of America.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are doing that right now with this movement. I came back to food service because it was just my first love, when nothing else really worked out. I was like, nothing fulfilled me like food service. So I came back. So I can't really say whether I'll stay in food service or, I mean, you're right. I have kind of picked up an affinity for this organizing thing. So I have been thinking about a future in that. And I think a lot of folks are, which is incredible. I think a lot of like regular baristas like me are showing like an affinity for this work and going, okay, like maybe I can like go. And I think a lot of the ways that some of those folks are doing that is reaching out to other stores right now and just doing what they can, which is other stores.
Yeah.
What it looks like to get into organizing, I know DSA just put out like it was like in an email that I got, but it was like DSA organizer full-time thing call. So you can do it for a living. Cool. And you need like 3 years of just like proven organizing, whatever. So I guess what that means is just like if I were to, if we pull this off and then like I go somewhere else and like help out and then we pull it off there and then, so I think that's what people are doing. And I could look into that. I'm not sure if I would stay with Starbucks doing that. I know that's like their biggest fear is that like
people are gonna stay.
Well, it's called salting.
Yeah.
So there's a high turnover rate. A lot of people like transfer different stores, and so a lot of folks are here in like the beginning of the organizing process of one store, and then like they're very interested, but their life's moving on, so they got to go to this other store in this other state, and then they go over there and they go, okay, well, what's it looking like over here? And so when you go into a certain job position with the intention of organizing that job, they call it salting. And so it's something that a lot of us have been joking about, like, oh, like if I get fired from the Starbucks, I'll just go salt a Wendy's, whatever. Maybe.
That's clever. That's really clever. I mean, and maybe this is really just the start, right? Like this is not, but for the past handful of years has these attempts at organizing. I'm thinking specifically of like Amazon and how long it's taken for that fight to get kicked over in the right direction, for the workers, and that we are in its infancy, right? That 10 years from now, 30 years from now, everybody that's been at the front line of this organizing is going to turn around and look and say, wow, if we hadn't taken these risks, there wouldn't be some sort of better condition for, my kids who are now of working age, or of anybody who comes along and may not end up having to know just how bad it has been in the labor force as it is now.
Right. There shouldn't be like a class of jobs that does not pay enough for an adult to support themselves.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable. That's not, if someone is getting out of bed every day and going and contributing to society and working all of the hours that a corporation will let them work,
Yeah.
then they deserve, in return, the very least, they deserve to be able to take care of themselves as an adult.
Yeah.
To be able to pay rent, pay a car note, pay insurance, buy groceries. They deserve all of that. There
Yeah.
shouldn't be an entire job where it's just like, well, if you do that for a living, you can't pay rent. Well,
Yeah.
why? Why? You're doing something for a living. So you absolutely deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
yeah.
100%. And it's like, how am I going to prop up a system that I'm not allowed to participate in?
Right.
Right. And people, we like to think like we're one big society here in the United States, but we're as classist as anywhere else is, right? That, places that have defined caste systems, just because we don't label everything
them,
doesn't mean that
yeah.
it doesn't exist. Like very clearly.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And we know that, we've given them more than enough chances. These corporations are not going to, of their own accord, go, all right, we'll pay you a decent, like, they're not gonna. They're never going to. We have to force their hand. And so that's what we're doing.
And I don't know if there was ever a point in time in history where business was about, the progress of society and not about the, scraping off of value from that society. But it's like, if that's a trajectory that we can go on, it's a trajectory we need to get on.
Yeah.
Right? What's that balance between private success and public good and the betterment of society for all, right? Because you can only hollow out so much of the bottom before that falls out for everybody all the way up. Right?
Yeah. When you're accustomed to making $25 million a year, I can understand how it really hurts your heart to have to cut that in half.
Yeah. Now I only get to make $12 million a
Yeah, because
year.
at the end of the day, like, you're taking a 50% pay cut, and to you that's a really big deal, even though you're still making millions, literal millions. So I can understand how none of these CEOs are going to willingly do this if they're not legally obligated. They're not going to ever. They can partner, and we love you and profit sharing all they want, but at the end of the day, I need to buy groceries tomorrow, Howard. I need to eat.
Yeah. I love how you speak directly to Howard.
All the time. All the time. Wrote him a letter.
What did that letter say? I saw that you posted it, or that it was posted, but I didn't read the letter. What was the gist?
Yeah, so each store that goes public with their intent to unionize, I guess it's kind of a formality. We write a letter to Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, just kind of giving him a heads up, giving him an opportunity to voluntarily recognize the union, because ideally, right, what we've just done is like sign the union card. 70% of us sign these union cards saying we want to be a union. Ideally and legally, a company could look at those and go, all right, okay, I'll recognize us, you're a union now. But tooth and nail, man, Starbucks will never, ever. So they make us go to the next step, which is an election, which is fine. But the letter is an opportunity for them to voluntarily recognize it. And it's also like a description of what we're facing, why we're doing this, just an explanation. Even though he knows, just an explanation of why we are doing it. The way that we did ours is I opened a Google Doc and just gave access to it to all the partners in my store and said, hey, just throw in all your grievances, ideas, anything you'd want to say to Howard Schultz if you could. And it was just like bullet points of all these ideas. And then I just polished that into a letter. It's actually fire. You should read it. Twitter's loving it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
off.
phenomenal. That's cool. Like that is quite the way to go about it. And like we're just, here you go. Here's what we've got to say.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't know if he reads them. I don't know who's tasked with reading these letters. I know when I sent it to his email, the subject line was just another one because I know he's getting them daily. CC'd my manager, everything I was supposed to do. But I don't know if Howard Schultz himself reads those letters. But the gist was anything that we'd want to say to him if we could.
Big last question here. How do you manage the possibility of retaliation?
Everyone's managing it differently. So retaliation, while statistically very unlikely, has happened, right?
Yeah.
About 12 different stores out of 200-ish, or 300, sorry, have experienced retaliation, have had at least like one person fired. In Memphis, they fired an entire organizing committee of 7 people. So it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically very unlikely. Huge NLRB case against them if they do. So they're facing like 20 different retaliation cases. Near guarantee that each of these people are going to get their jobs back with back pay. I mean, Starbucks is not like the cream of the crop. I can just go get another job while I'm waiting to get my job back. That's basically how I look at it. Because I'm not just like, oh, fuck Starbucks, you can fire me. No, I love it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not too worried about it. I've always been like, come at me kind of personality. I know a lot of people are actually concerned to some degree, and one thing that we're looking at is like louder support from all of these partners because and this is advice that we're getting from like our organizers at Workers United and stuff. They say like the more people that are vocal about the union support makes it harder to identify the leaders, right? And also harder to decide who to fire. If you decide you want to do an illegal firing, you're not going to fire 16 people. You can't.
You have to shut the store down.
You can, but you have to shut the store down. And God forbid, like Starbucks would never. They would never. Oh, they would never.
And you thought paying your people an extra $2 an hour was tough on the bottom line.
Yeah, you're going to shut the store down? No, you're not. No, you're not. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Also, I mean, I think we're relying on like a lot of the scrutiny that they're getting right now because they are in the public eye. People know that you are doing this illegal firing and this union busting. Like people know, and so I guess we're just waiting to see: are you gonna roll it back some, and are you gonna be more ethical, or are you gonna double down? Either way, we're gonna know what you're doing.
Nice.
It's not you. No one's gonna buy it if you're like, oh, we had to fire Ken because she had words on her shirt one day or something.
Because she had words on her shirt someday.
No one's buying it.
That's phenomenal. Well, that's where I say that I hope that the opposite has happened for this conversation, episode 105 of the WTF Carbondale podcast, where you have bought into the idea, bought into the work that Ken and their coworkers have been up to for the past handful of months here, and just keeping an eye on the progress that they make, because hey, the modern fight for workers' rights is right here in this little old place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois. That's it for this episode, folks. Have a good one, whatever that one may be.